The Red Hatter Store presents a story by Anna Emm.
The Princess and the Pirate. They had grown up together. It seemed like 1,000,000 centuries ago that the young boy and the little girl had run through the palace's garden playing hide and seek. She had hair like the sun, he remembered, tied in one long ponytail down her back. That's what he remembered of her. The ponytail bouncing around in front of him as he followed her through the woods to their secret cave. The Pirate Cave was what she used to call it. But that was a long time ago, before she turned into a real grown-up princess, and before he became a pirate himself. A salty spray of seawater hit him in the face, where Captain Bowden Lucas was standing at the helm of his ship. His experienced eyes glanced down the coastline to their right, but the waves were high, and the air was filled with an approaching grey storm. Drops of rain were already coming down, and within seconds they would not be able to see anything. What was it that he had just seen there on the dark rocks? Was it a movement? And why did it make him think of that long blonde ponytail again, after so many years at sea? It was no use. The storm was upon them. He ordered his men to throw anchor in the little bay so they could wait out the storm. No sooner had they had the ship locked down when the rain set in, and the men went below deck to drink out the storm. Tonight, Captain Bowden Lucas did not feel like drinking. He was restless, and when the waves settled a bit, he took the rowboat to the shore. The white beach looked spooky in the greyness. He pulled the boat ashore and got out. He felt like a decent wash, and walked some distance towards the trees, where he knew he'd find the waterfall. The pirate washed himself in the clear water of the pool. He did not notice the shadowy figure watching him from behind the trees. He did not see when his clothes and his pistol were softly picked up from the rocks. When he finally emerged from the pool and sat down on one of the rocks by the water's edge, he heard the distinctive click of the gun right behind him. His body stiffened to attention, but before he could turn around, he felt the cold steel nozzle of his own pistol against the skin of his back. "Captain Bowden Lucas, if I'm not mistaken," a voice whispered behind him. "Only a fool would venture away from his ship and his men on a night like this." "Only a fool would hold a pistol to my back," the pirate said. "How do we know each other, fool?" There was a soft laugh. "You might find it interesting to know," the voice whispered, "that my men have already overtaken your ship in the bay. Your men are drunk. There would be no challenge. I would say that by now we've stocked our ship with your loot and are ready to go. And all the while the captain is taking a bath." Captain Bowden Lucas felt the blood go to his face, but he was no fool. Any pirate worth his pounds had the senses of a cat and the reflexes of an acrobat. With one movement, he turned around and swept the figure off his feet. The gun went off before it clanked down on the rock. They both reached for it, but it was a naked Captain Lucas who was on his feet first, pointing the pistol to the stranger's masked face. "Reveal yourself, fool," he demanded. When he got no reply, he ripped the mask off himself and sharply drew in his breath. For a moment they looked at each other, and then she laughed mockingly and got up. "What's the matter?" she said. "Too little a pirate to fight a girl, Bowden Lucas?" She drew a dagger from her waistband and pointed it at him. The pirate was out of his depth, blown away by her familiar beauty, now enhanced by the figure of a woman. He was shocked at finding her here like this, dressed in pirate's clothes, away from the palace's garden. "What are you doing here, princess?" he asked. She noticed the scars of battles on his chest and arms as she searched the eyes of the boy she once knew, the son of the palace guard, who used to play with her as a child. "Same thing you are," she said, "looking for the golden skull." He looked at her and then he had to laugh. She knew he was laughing at her, and it was infuriating. She reached forward and slipped the dagger across his cheek, stinging the skin. He grabbed his cheek and lifted the pistol in defense, but she was gone. There was only a quick movement and the swing of a blonde ponytail, the rustles of leaves, and then the sound of disappearing footsteps. Even if he wanted to follow her, he did not dare do it without his clothes. The undergrowth was slippery, and the legendary thorn branches could rip your skin apart. He heard the shouts of his men coming from the shore, and knew they were bringing him news of the robbery. He sighed, wiped the blood from his cheek, and picked up the clothes she had thrown into the bushes. He dressed quickly and went down to the beach like one in a dream. After the princess had robbed his ship, Captain Bowden Lucas was determined to get his revenge and recover his loot, with interest, of course. He kept on telling himself that was his reason for looking for her, and he almost believed it. He asked around and heard rumors about a female pirate who was terrorizing the seas in the South Atlantic. Some said she was the daughter of a giant, and others claimed she was a princess searching the seas to find a lost love. But no one knew if the rumors were true, and no one had ever seen her. It was late one evening when Captain Bowden Lucas anchored his ship near the shores of Monrovia. It was even later when he reached the palace grounds. The old groundkeeper was still there, and he remembered him. His father had been a man worthy of respect, and they let him through. He hammered on the thick wooden door until they opened for him. A shy little maid with eyes full of fear showed him to the throne room, and there she was. The princess got up as the pirate entered. No words were exchanged. He walked up to her until he was standing in front of her. She was wearing a thin nightgown and her hair was loose. She smelt like soap and sleep, but her eyes were awake with mischief and daring him to make the first move. "I've come for my loot," the pirate said, "and for the golden skull that I believe to be in your possession." "Sure you have," she smiled, and lightly touched his cheek where there was now a scar. He did not move, but a rush of memories came with that touch. He had loved her since they were young, and when her father had ordered her to marry a prince, he had run away and turned to piracy, vowing to forget her. "I believe you are a pirate, Bowden Lucas," she said, "and pirates are considered enemies of the palace. I think I will have you thrown into the dungeon immediately." He grabbed her by the throat, and she made a little sound of surprise, her eyes wide with amusement. "Sure you will," he said, and kissed her hard. There was no more need for rumors or cover-ups. Captain Bowden Lucas, the pirate, knew that he did not come for the loot, and the princess knew that she had been roaming the seas in search of her one true love, and now, with that kiss, it all made sense. Rather a princess than a pirate, he smiled down at her after he had finally released her. "Rather pirate than a prince," she said, and kissed him back. Legend has it that the princess of Monrovia had married a pirate, that they occasionally swing from the chandeliers, that they have sword fights in the garden, and that they are in possession of the golden skull. But no one knows for sure.
This story was brought to you by Anna Emm Productions. Visit our Red Hatter store at www.redhatter.co.za.